I'm pretty excited. I'm going to start doing a weekly during the off-season trade proposition. I've got three websites up really quick here. One is baseball trade values. You're going to learn a lot about that right here. Baseball reference is the other, which is what I really use to figure out a lot about players' stats and what their value is. And then SPO is essentially what is a current contract. What do the contracts look like for current players? So we can look at what players are owed. So we're going to start with, first of all, if you're not used to this website, it's a really fun one. Essentially, if you ever have a thought in your mind of, I wonder if the Cubs would do this trade, well, you can look at it and you can see in their trade simulator what the value is of that player and is it matched up with what you're thinking the values are. So, last year, like the Christopher Morel trade for Isaac Paredes, the Cubs, based on that trade, came out like crazy, crazy high on top, even though I think there's going to be a lot still to be seen about that, especially with Hunter Biggie. But you can also, and we're going to go through the trade simulator. By the end of this, I'm actually going to propose a trade, and I want to know what you think about it. I think it's going to get some people really itching in their trousers per se, because I don't think a lot of people are going to like who I'm going to propose to trade based on what I've been seeing in comments. But that's why we have this. We're just having some fun here. So trade boards is where I want to start though, because you can actually go on here and you can search for other people's trades. People who actually post their trade propositions to this website. And so we can look at every single Cubs trade that is proposed. And I want to start here. I really like this one. Some of these we're going to laugh at, to be honest. I mean, you can see right down below here, Aaron Judge. Like, of course, the Yankees are not going to trade Aaron Judge, but it's kind of funny that we can see that it's going to cost this much to get Aaron Judge. But I like this one. Cubs and Pirates. I don't think the Pirates would do this because David Bednar, for example, even though it has him as a 2.8, a lot of that has to do with the down year that he had, as well as I'm pretty sure, I might have to expand this a little bit. Yeah, David Bednar. I'm pretty sure he had a good payday here in 2024. And we'll see in 25, only 5.8 million. And then in 24, it was 4.5. So that's pretty affordable. But he had a really bad year. Almost a -1 baseball reference WAR. Fangraphs is also one that you can use for this. But 5.77 ERA. I think this was a fluke. Trevor May did a YouTube video about this on how David Bednar is tipping his pitches. I think David and the Pirates are probably looking at that and saying, oh, didn't know that. Or maybe they did know about it, but they didn't find out about it till later in the season. Either way, he had a really bad year. But look at the 3 years before. Back-to-back All-Stars. 2.61 was the highest ERA he had, including 39 saves for the Pirates in a year that they just did not have a good season. So when you look at this, you say this guy could be – I don't care if it's on the Pirates or another team. I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to be back in the 2s, maybe low 3 ERAs here in 2025. I would like to see him on the Cubs. That would be awesome. The Cubs have talked about Bednar before. There has been rumors about that, so that's not completely off the charts. And then Joey Bart was kind of like, didn't he have falling off? He was a big prospect and then didn't really do anything. Well, I was wrong. 2024, he had a really good year. Would have been the best catcher on the Cubs from a WAR perspective. 2.2 WAR, 265 batting average. He had 13 home runs, 799 OPS. Now, he only played in 80 games, which is also exciting because 13 home runs in 80 games is pretty awesome. He walks a decent amount, 22 walks in his 282 plate appearances, coming out to a 337 on-base percentage. I would love that. The only problem is, even though there is value on guys like Brennan Davis, Cole Franklin, Ed Howard, those 3 guys have never pitched in the majors, played in the majors, and they have been plagued by injuries throughout their minor league career. So those 3 guys, I think, would raise red flags for the Pirates. Matt Mervis, ironically the lowest value on this list, I think has the biggest opportunity to play right away for the Pirates because Rowdy Tellez is not going to be a guy that they would block for Matt Mervis, I don't think. I'd like to see Matt Mervis get a shot somewhere else. And then BJ Murray, 2.9 value, which I thought was really high considering that he's not really been a proven producer at the minor league level, and being an infielder, the Cubs have plenty of those. So, I mean, I don't think the Pirates go for this, but then again, they've never been very good at trades, so maybe the Cubs could get away with something like that. That would be, to me, your starting catcher, Joey Bart, probably in front of Miguel Amaya. I don't know about his defensive stats. I'd have to look at that. In fact, let's just do that really quick. No reason not to. There you go. Standard fielding. Stolen base, caught stealing, only 18% thrown out caught stealing, which isn't great, but it's definitely better than Miguel Amaya. And fielding percentage 992. I'm willing to bet that because of these stats, I think he would be the starting catcher. All right, so next one. Let's take a look. This was funny. David Bednar for Adbrow's like, I don't know if I don't know. Maybe we do that one, but call me crazy. I still have hope that Adbert would come back in 2026, not 2025, and be legit. But I wouldn't not do that. Let's say that. This was funny to me. I just don't agree with the value on this. What Cubs fans right now would be upset with this trade, right? Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a bona fide first baseman, had an amazing season, had a couple years trending down, but just jumped right back up this last year. For Hayden Wesneski, who has been back and forth from AAA, back and forth in long relief versus starter, has never really gotten into a groove. Matt Mervis, who has already been proven is not going to be in this organization or have a future in this organization. And B.J. Murray, once again, which surprisingly, B.J. Murray is worth 3.8 on October 28th, but he was worth 2.9. The other trade, I don't really know how that works. 9.2 value. The Blue Jays apparently are getting more value than they're giving up. That's where I think this site is a little bit flawed, and a lot of it just comes down to the fact that Vladimir Guerrero is getting paid upwards of $25 million is expected for 2025, and that's why he's got the lower value and just 1 year of control. And, you know, the funny thing for me, too, if I click on his name, it says that his availability is very low. Wouldn't that raise your value? Wouldn't that be like, hey, because you're like the Cubs would have to give up so much just to be able to even open that conversation for the Blue Jays, wouldn't that make his value higher? I don't know. From the AFV standpoint, too, which from a value standpoint, that's really what this is equating. What is the value of that player? And then essentially what they do to be able to get the overall value, which ends up being this surplus/median, is they subtract the value from the salary. So that's where this number comes from. But from a overall value standpoint, you can see that Vladimir Guerrero, 38, ends up being way more than what the Cubs are offering, which is just over 11. So for that reason, that's why I think even though total value, because they're factoring in the salary, which just really seems overblown to me, if I'm being honest. I'm not a GM. I'm not a baseball of operations. I could be wrong. Maybe this is the way that they think, but I just cannot imagine the Cubs making this trade and being like, yeah, we gave up more value than we got, right? I think that if you're a Cubs fan and you see this trade, you're like, what a freaking steal. So that's where I think there's a little bit of a flaw, because I would rather see the overall value of this player. Again, if you know what AFV stands for, I try to Google it. I tried to look all over the website. I'm still pretty new to this website. I can see enough that I understand that this is basically the player's overall value, but I don't know what AFV actually stands for, so let me know. All right, now let's get to the trade that I thought would be a good one. And once again, you know, it kind of sparked from looking at some of these. I saw one down here, Nico Hoerner to the Giants for Camilo Doval, Lamonte Wade, Mason Black. You know, you could argue that that's a pretty decent trade. Why would the Cubs trade Nico Hoerner? Why are we going to use Nico Hoerner as the trade bait? I'm sorry if that upsets you. Nico is my favorite player as well. It's upsetting for me. However, when you look around the diamond for the Cubs, if you're going to have a quote-unquote star player eventually, in that lineup. Second base is really the only movable. When I say the only movable, it's only logical movable spot right now for the Cubs. Yes, if Cody Bellinger opts out, then you look at potentially a right fielder or a DH for sure. But we're assuming right now as we make this that Cody is not opting out and that Nico is the only quote-unquote movable position, maybe Isaac Paredes as well, but I think the Cubs want to give him another shot. So with that being said, my reasoning there is that Matt Shaw is right behind him, James Triantos is right behind him, and so I just think that there's a lot of opportunity right now for the Cubs to give up a Nico Hoerner and potentially upgrade or be right around the same value there with a Matt Shaw / James Triantos together in 2025 and get something that they really need. So what team is going nowhere fast? It's the Angels. So I'm going to go Cubs and Angels. This one has been talked about a decent amount so far out in the Twitter sphere and the internet, and that is Nico. And we're going to go trade to Angels. And then Angels are going to give us Logan O'Hoppe. And if you don't know who Logan O'Hoppe is, he is a young catcher with a lot of value. In fact, as you see here, based on this, it's not enough value. It's saying that the Cubs are actually coming out on the short end of the stick on this. And once again, let's take a look. The AFV for O'Hoppe is 36. For Nico Hoerner, it's 43. So according to the overall value, the Cubs are coming out on top the Angels are coming out on top. In other words, that the Cubs are giving up more value from just an overall value standpoint. But because of the salary, you can see they're removing a lot for the salary versus O'Hoppe here. They're removing very little. So that's why you end up with a surplus of what their actual value, quote unquote, is. So the Cubs essentially need to do more than just O'Hoppe or more than just Nico here. And just so you can see, let's look at Logan O'Hoppe for those of you that don't know much about him. Logan O'Hoppe. 2.7 WAR player. Nico was a 3.7, 3.9, somewhere in that area, but he had 20 home runs, 244 batting average. His OPS was pretty decent, 712, which is about the same as Nico, by the way. The biggest difference here is he really doesn't walk a lot. Nico doesn't walk a ton either, but the batting average and the on-base percentage are higher for Nico, and I think that's the missing piece there. So 51 games in 2023, he was decent as well. In fact, 51 games, he had 14 home runs in 2023 in his rookie season. That's pretty impressive. So you take a guy like this, young, isn't owed a lot, and that's something that you can look at right here. I think it was like $800,000 was what I saw on O'Hoppe for his estimated salary in 2025. Yeah, $800,000 is what is expected. So you're cutting some salary, which isn't necessarily a need. It is a need if Bellinger opts in. It's not a need if he opts out, assuming that the Cubs still push the luxury tax. But this right here, it feels like a good straight-up trade. Plus, when you look at the Angels, they don't have a good starting second base option right now. 2024 Angels. If we go here, Baseball Reference once again, we're looking at the Angels. Come on, load up here. Load up. Where? Okay, let's just expand this here. There we go. If we look at their detailed stats, you can see their starting second baseman in 2024 atrocious. Brandon Drury, 97 games, 169 batting average, OPS 469. So they need a second baseman, and even with the injury, I think Nico is going to be appealing to a team like the Angels, and he's still young. You say, hey, this is our second baseman for the future. We're going to build an infield around him and Zach Neto, who is a young and upcoming star from the Angels' perspective. And I think they would really like that trade is my thought. The only thing is, based on the overall value, the Cubs would have to add a little bit more. So what else could they add? Let's go ahead and just look at all their positions. We're looking for essentially right around a 5 surplus is what we want to try to find for them. So who's in a 5 surplus? Let's just go ahead and do this by surplus. We can see that they're probably going to need another catcher. That would be my assumption. We're not going to give Moises Ballesteros up. So let's just go ahead and assume Pablo Aliendo is going to be the guy. Only a 1.7 surplus, but I am going to add him. So now we're only looking for about a 3 surplus. All right, close him out. And so who's a 3 surplus? Let's do this the opposite direction. 3 is going to be still a few more away. All right, we're kind of Brennan Davis, 1.7. Again, it's the same issue that I think the Pirates would have, just too many injury situations. Same thing with Cole Franklin. I don't understand why Daniel Palencia is only a 1.5 given the stuff that he has. I don't understand why Jack Neely is only a 1.4. I could do a Cam Sanders. I don't know much about Matt Thompson. Oh, I would love... Okay, how about Alexander Canario? That guy deserves a spot. Alexander Canario and Cam Sanders. And there, my friends, is your even trade. Cubs, 23.9. 3 prospects that have high upside for Logan O'Hoppe, who is potentially a catcher of the future for the Cubs. Slot him in there. Miguel Amaya, the backup catcher. You've got a great 1-2 punch if Amaya can do the same thing he did in the second half of the season. And you slot in Matt Shaw. If Matt Shaw doesn't work out, then you've still got James Triantos. And if James Triantos doesn't work out, one of those guys is going to at least be a bench guy for the Cubs. Then you could possibly look at putting Michael Busch at second base and bringing in a first baseman, trade for a first baseman, sign a free agent first baseman. If Bellinger opts in, you move him over to first base and you move someone else in the outfield. There's a lot of flexibility there is my point. I don't want Nico gone either, but there's so much flexibility within the infield and what you can do to make those chess pieces move that I really think this would be a fun trade. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is there a trade that you would like to propose as well? I can take a look at that for you on next week's trade proposal for the Cubs. Really cool stuff here. I'm going to have fun with this offseason. Let me know what you think.